Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another Feel Good Frieren Friday. We are going to be checking out the penultimate episode of Season 1. I cannot believe it. How did we get this close to the end so fast? Honestly, I'm just blown away by how incredible this series has been. It really does live up to the praise and accolade and all the words that everyone has said about the series. They are 100% fully true. I fully buy into Frieren. I completely get it. I have loved this season so far, and we still have 2 episodes left. So let's see where that takes us now that we're finished trial 2. Are we going to get a third trial, or are we suddenly third class mages? First class mages, not third, sorry. I wonder if these next 2 episodes will kind of slow things down a lot after the super high action, super high intensity energy of the previous episode, especially, but episodes preceding that too, obviously. I wonder if we're going to slow things down a lot, and we're going to, maybe set up for a kind of road work for where we might end up in season 2. If maybe we will veer into some sort of character driven arc perhaps for one of our main characters, or if we'll maybe be introduced to some other characters that will play a part in future Frieren. But right now, I'm just kind of curious what's going to happen to all our friends that we're now going to be saying goodbye to. I wonder what's going to happen to Richter. I wonder what's going to happen to Veerbel. I wonder what's going to happen to Ubel. I wonder what's going to happen to Denken. Not in that order in particular, I'm just naming them as they come to my mind. And of course, Lavine and Kane as well. When are they going to have their big moment? I'm just waiting for it at this point. I really just feel like they're just about there ready to be a couple with one another, but I just don't know if the series is going to 100% confirm that or not. I think right now my main question is whether Denken will join the party. I know that he's going to be traveling north too, but the only way I would see him joining the party is if he fails to become a first class mage and someone in Frieren's party does. So yeah, a lot of questions, a lot of doubts, and a lot of what ifs and ifs, buts, whatever it is. So we'll just see what ends up happening. We'll see where we go next, if there's going to be any other trial that will be wrapped up in this next episode or two. So yeah, Frieren, what an absolute blast of a series. What an incredible, well-written series. And yeah, nothing but praise all around across the board, from OST, voice acting, animation, just storytelling, everything. Everything is perfect. Not gonna yap much longer. If you guys do enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe if you have not done so already, and comment down below letting me know which of these episodes of Frieren has been your favorite now that we're so close to the end. And yeah, we're just gonna dive right into this. So yeah, season 1, of course, of Frieren, episode number 27. Let's go. Alright, I'm almost anxiously nervous to see what is to come, because I know we're so close to the end and I just don't want it to end. So yeah, we're just going to check this one out. Here we go. Oh shit, we're jumping back in with Stark and this old guy who shows up when he's meditating. This is where Frieren shows up. Oh, it's Fern. Why is she annoyed? Is it because you weren't there to congratulate her or to see her when she finished? I think it would be so funny if that old guy actually ended up being an important, relevant character in this world and series. I have no idea how or why he would be, but I think that shit would be so funny that he literally just shows up to Stark and is like, yeah, you're already there. I have nothing to teach you. And he ends up being some super strong character in the future. Even if it's way down the line, I think that shit would be so funny. Do I think it's going to happen? Maybe not. I think he might just be a joke character for now anyway. Oh, here we go. An era of humans. That's exactly what we were told not long ago that this was going to be. Now that humanity is learning magic over 1,000 years ago. Oh no, what happened? Yeah, that's sad. And did she say to get a new one? But that staff was a gift from Hyder, so... That's sad. Yeah, Hyder. Oh, and it was way too big for you.
小さな頃からずっと一緒だったんです。
フリーレンだぜ。悪気があったわけじゃ。
少なくとも私には捨てるだなんて発想はありませんでした。いつもみたいにバカにしろよ。
Why would she do that?
じゃあラビーネちゃん、なで
Little Miss Lavine.
やんのか?
Oh, she just wants to be next to you.
早くしろ。
Oh,
優勝だね。
she just needs comforting.
あ、フリーレンだ。
And the way that's a way that she can feel comforted, it's really nice.
何その袋。
Staff repairs?
わしは今客としてここにいる。
ならさっさと選べ。
She's still eating donuts. Oh, this time he can have some. Last time he couldn't. Either they feel closer or she feels sorry for him.
あの場にいた誰もがそうなる可能性が。
Absolutely. It certainly would have. Everyone else got by without having to face something like that, you know?
俺は今最悪な気分なんだ。
Yeah, I bet.
それでも店はやるんだな。
電気。
Judy Bond.
お前は知らないだろうが、どんな最悪な気分でも人は食っていくために働かなければならん。ま、落ちたのが俺でよかったんじゃないか。
I wouldn't say that at all,
一級
Richter.
試験は3年に一度。
Oh, because you live here?
お前みたいな老いぼれに3年後はないかもしれないからな。
That's not a nice thing to say. But he is right.
リヒター、お前は本当に生意気な若造だ。権威をバカにし、目的のためなら弱者を足毛にすることもいとわない。
That is true. We have seen that.
人間ではない。
Yep.
なの
Fully
にわし
agreed.
はお前に何の剣をも抱いている。
Because he's also shown signs of kindness and
わしがそういう
thoughtfulness.
生意気な若造だったから。
You were like this too once upon a
そんな
time?
わしが今は宮廷魔法使いの地位にいる。
Still waiting to really learn what Imperial Mage means. We kind of got a little brief thing as to what it means, but not really a full
3
in
年後
depth.
のお前は今よりずっと強くなった。
That's true. You will carry the torch of Dankin forward.
結局何も買ってかないのかよ。
Is it going to be Frieren? Yeah.
今日は薬日か何か。
It's like a revolving door.
町の人たちに聞いて回ったんだけど、ここならどんなに壊れた杖でも修理できるんだよね。
Oh, he's going to do it for her.
このバラバラの物体はなんだ。まさか杖なのか。
Yep, it's destroyed beyond fixing and reasoning.
ゴミじゃないよ、多分。
Probably.
少しは気分が良くなっていたが。
What
お前のせいで最悪な気分に逆
do you
戻った。
mean? We're the reason that your friends passed. Actually, no, you don't have friends, I guess.
できないならいいや。
Oh, if you can't do it, that's
フ
gonna.
リーレン、
Yeah, that got in his nerves.
俺がいつできないとまで言った。
It's that he doesn't want to. Look at that! Holy shit! That looks really cool. Just seeing all the little
今
pieces.
日中にできそう。第三次試験には間に合わせたいから。
無茶を言いやがって。
Oh, that's so sweet though that she's going to get it repaired. She's making up with that,
悪かった。
you know, argument. Aw,
手入れが行き届いたいい杖だ。さぞかし大事にされていたんだろう。
they certainly did. Then it cuts to her just eating a kebab.
フリーレン様は私のことをまるで分かっていません。
そんなの俺だってわかんねえよ。
She does understand you.
てよ俺に当たらないでだからさ、分かろうとするのが大事だと
That's
思うんだ
true.
よ。フリーレンは頑張っていると思うぜ。
She doesn't see the problem in having the staff, but she also doesn't see a problem in, or she wants to understand why you care so much.
二次試験が終わったばかりだっていうのに、今日はお前の師匠のおかげで散々だ。いっそのこと慎重してくれた方がこっちも儲かるってのにな。
She's gonna know what that means. Aww. They get me all choked up again in Frieren. What's new?
私の杖。
And you know it's your staff because you took care of it, so you know everything about it.
フリーレンは感情や感性に乏しい。それが原因で困難や行き違いが起こることもある。
That is so true, Hyder.
でも一つだけいいこともあります。
She'll
その分
always
だけ
go out of her
き
way
っとフリーレンはあなたのために思い悩んでくれる。
to
彼
try.
女以上の死はなかなかいません。
Oh, the series is too much sometimes. She'll wake up on the floor and you know it. We're in our groups of 2 now. Interesting. It's all down to groups of 2. I wonder if that was done on purpose from the writer's perspective. I'm sure it was.
いえ、やっぱり何でもありません。
Are you gonna say thank you?
そう。
What did they pair us against our other, like, duo partner, you know? Or pit us against, not pair us against?
第二次試験の合格者は12名。
That's
異
a
例の合
lot.
格者数だ。多すぎる。全員協力型の試験は大いに結構だ。今の一級魔法使いには協調性がないからな。
That's good to know.
だがその中にあってはならないほどの実力を持った
Frieren.
おかげで実力に見合わないものまで大勢合格。
That's what I was saying last episode. Many of them probably wouldn't have passed.
そいつらは全員死ぬことになる。それに私とてそこまでの無駄死にはさすがに望んでいる。
Not even I?
謝る必要はない。すべてフリーレンが悪い。
It's all Frieren's fault.
第三次試験は私が
Oh, shit!
平和的に選別してやる。異論はないな、レルネ。
Learning.
ゼイリエ様のわがままは今に始まったことではありませんから。
Ziria is gonna take over.
フリーレン様を試す
Yeah, there's no one who could test Frieren. Ziria is the only one who knows.
彼女は魔力を制限しています。
By an abnormal amount. Equal to yours. Oh shit. That's crazy.
何の話だか。彼女の魔力は試験会場で直接見ました。
Yeah.
あの魔力は制限されたものとは思えません。
It takes a skilled older mage to recognize.
揺らぎもなかった。
Yeah, because she's been suppressing it for more than 1,000 years.
消せるものではありません。仮にそれが可能だったとしても、途方もない時間が必要でしょう。
Try 1,000 years. An elf can do it.
その実用的でない技術にフリーレンは生涯を捧げた。
Mm-hmm.
魔族を欺く。
Absolutely, that's it.
魔族は私たち人類よりもはるかに魔力に敏感。
Humanoids.
生まれ持った才覚でもなければ、100年や200年制限したところで欺けるものじゃない。
And nobody has that kind of time except an elf.
現にフリーレンは年の割には
And
技
she,
術の甘
yep,
い魔法使
she
い
did exactly that with Aura. Aura did not calculate her
そ
mana
れほどまでに
correctly whatsoever.
洗練されている。私の知る限り、それをたった一目で見破ったのは魔王だけ。
But now Lernen can do
この
that.
瞬間まではな。
Lernen is someone to watch out for.
偶然わずかな揺らぎが見えた。
Huh, but you noticed it
実
nonetheless.
に謙虚で堅実だ。
Haha, this guy is not to be trifled with.
これだけの境地に立っておきながら、
It's been a while since we saw. It's Zenz's hair that's in the thumbnail, or the opening rather.
この先一生ないだろう。
But why is she wearing a
それが
robe,
た
a
とえ
cloak
勝て
like
る
that?
戦いであっても、
Besides to be like some sort of queen, you know?
人間の弟子は取るものではないな。本当に残念だ。
How could you be such a meanie to Lernen?
結局、あの子にも見えなかったか。私の魔力の揺らぎが。
You're also suppressing? Oh shit.
多分直感で合格者を選ぶつもりだろうね。でもゼーリエの直感はいつも正しい。現に私は未だにゼーリエが望むほどの魔法
Yeah,
使いには
that's true, and that's very frustrating because her idea of a first class mage is not a great idea. Like it's very specific, and it shouldn't be the case, you know. First class mage, like it just something about the whole process is kind of like it's tailored for a specific person, and it's just like there are better mages out there who will not pass, and that was kind of alluded to in the past with the guy with the like reddish orange hair.
不合格だ。帰れ。
You feel?
理由を聞いてもいい？
今もお前は私の魔力に恐怖を感
Oh
じている。
shit.
自分の身の丈がよく分かっているんだ。
That's crazy.
一級魔法使いになった自分の姿がイメージできないだろう。魔法の世界ではイメージできないものは実現できない。
If you can't visualize beating her, then
帰れ。
that's
不合
insane.
格。不合格。 不合格
Yep, okay.
不合格だ
We're getting all the jobbers out of the way. Oh, Frieren.
お前も一級魔法使いになった自分
It's not that she can't imagine, she doesn't care to be a first class
他の
mage.
受験者とは異なる理由だお前は私が合格を出すとは微塵も思っていない
事実でしょ。
一度だけチャンスをやる好きな魔法を
Tell me your favorite spell.
花畑を出す魔法。
Aww, that's so
フラン
sweet.
メから教わった魔法か実にくだらない不合格だ
Damn, it all comes down to Fern.
愚弄されたのに食い下がりすらしないのか
She doesn't
お前のよ
care.
うな魔法使いが魔王を倒したとは到底信じられない
Well, start believing it.
私一人の力じゃない
Oh, yep.
ヒンメル、アイゼン、ハイター、私。
It was a
一
party.
人で
It
も
was
か
a
けてい
group
たら倒
effort.
せなかった。
仲間に恵まれたか運が良かったな
そうだよ。
I was lucky. Yeah, they all were like not expected to pass, you know?
君がいいと思ったんだフリーレン君は覚えていないだろうけど
What?
昔僕は一度だけ君と会ったことがある
When?
全然覚えていない。
She would only, I guess, travel to little villages to collect things, I
森に
guess?
薬草を取りに入った時道に迷った
Ah, that's scary, actually. That's really scary.
もう二
Aww,
度と村に帰れないかと
poor little Himmel.
その時一人のエルフが人里の方向を教え
And
て
you
くれた
never forgot her.
本当に方向を教えるだけで励ましの言葉一つ口にしなかった子供心になんて冷たい人だった
Absolutely.
僕のそんな不安を
But
感
she
じ取ったの
was,
か
yeah, she was thinking thoughtful thoughts that she even wanted to help.
君は
Oh,
僕の花畑を出す魔法を見せてくれた
that's so cute and so sweet.
綺麗だ
She eased his mind.
生まれて初めて魔法が綺麗だと思った
Oh,
きっとこれはただの偶然に過ぎない
that's
こ
so
とだけど
beautiful.
ヒンメルたちと出会わせてくれたのは先生が教えてくれたくだらない魔法だよ。それからゼーリエ。フェルンを同じように不合格にする
This
つもりだろう
series
け
is
ど
wrecking me today.
多分それはできないよ。
Oh,
あの子はゼーリエの
she
想像を
certainly will.
人間の時代がやってきたんだ。
There it is.
私の魔力を見て立ちすくんでいる他の受験者と何ら変わらん
She's gonna step forward. What is it?
待てお前何が見えている
揺らいでいる。
It's fluctuating. Someone recognized it. You pass.
私の弟子になれ
Nope.
嫌です。
Nobody has ever recognized her fluctuation before.
悪いようにはしない
Oh, that's
私
crazy.
ならお前をより高みへと連れて行ける未だかつて魔法使いがたどり着いたことのないほどの
We're
高みへ
already reaching those heights with Frieren.
それは合否と関係があるのですか？
あるかもしれん
Ah, screw that. Give her the pass.
ゼーリエがいろいろと言ってくると思うけれども、
Yep.
要求を飲む必要はないよ。私がゼーリエに何を言っても不合格になるよ。
Yep, that's
フェルンは何を
exactly the
言っても
way.
合格
She will
になる
pass you no matter what.
だってゼー
She
リエの直感
sees,
はいつも
yep,
正
she
しい
sees the potential in you. And she knows that you are a first class mage.
フリーレンさんの弟子です。
Yep. There it is. The pupil of the pupil of the pupil.
私は有望な魔法使いを見逃すほどバカじゃない
Yep, there it is.
合格だ
Haha, we have our first class mage. I knew it was gonna be Fern. I just had like call it intuition as well from like 5-6 episodes ago. I feel like I was saying it. I was like, I think it's gonna be Fern that gets first class, and Frieren does not get it. I didn't know how that was gonna play out or how that was gonna be the case, but I just knew. I just had this feeling in my gut that Fern would be the one, and yeah. What better way to do it than to prove that you can recognize something as insane as Zirie suppressing her mana. And her suppression, the way she's suppressing it right now, is as large as Frieren unsuppressing is how it's kind of been described as. So Ziria is beyond comparing at this point anyway when it comes to her strength and her power. Holy shit, I don't even want to know what she could do without limiters or anything like that. She is insane. And I think it's very ironic and hilarious too that she's talking about Frieren learning to suppress and mastering to suppress. But we know from this episode, Ziria has done exactly that. And there we have it. That was episode number 27 of Frieren. And that brings us to the point now where we only have one episode left to watch. Yeah. I'm not going to try and think about it too much because it will make me very sad actually because I have had such a fun journey. I also forgive this red patch. I was kind of just scratching myself before I started talking. I didn't think about, the fact that it would show up on camera. So yeah, that sucks, but it'll disappear in a few minutes probably. But anyway, yeah, we're gonna talk about this episode, and the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that this one spell, this useless spell, as Ziria has described it, this spell that was Flamme's favorite, and Flamme loved the spell as a child because Ziria did it, and it was beautiful, and Flamme's always loved it ever since. And the way that you can kind of look at that is, this field of flowers blooming and blossoming from nothing, and that's kind of exactly what Flamme did for the magic community, for humanity. She brought this big boom, this bloom of magic to a group of humans, this almost like, I think it was a society or something it was called or something, I can't remember, like an emperor. But anyway, regardless of what it was that she brought it to, humanity's magic blossomed from that point forward. And the fact that this spell was her favorite, you can kind of draw comparisons to that of making something appear from nothing, something beautiful, something. And I say beautiful because we did hear several times, a couple of times I think in this episode, that magic was beautiful. It makes me think of that comparison just seems pretty obvious in my mind, that Flamme's favorite spell and exactly what she did, but without that spell and just, kind of bringing magic to humanity. I don't know if that makes sense anyway. I hope what I'm trying to say makes sense, but in my mind it makes perfect sense. And then of course that one spell that I don't think actually we ever heard that it was Frieren's favorite spell until this episode. And I guess I just never questioned what her favorite spell could be or anything like that, because she just loves using her little silly spells. She has been praised for her silly little spells forever because of Himmel and the gang. Like all these spells that help do silly little menial things. Frieren and the gang always appreciated them and always praised her for those spells. And so she went out of her way to collect more and to build up her repertoire of these little spells. But of course, what sillier little spell than a field of flowers to conjure out of nowhere? Of course that spell is going to be the most important spell in the whole series, right? Without that spell, Frieren, Himmel, Hyder, and Eisen would never have defeated the Demon King. Probably. I can't say that with 100% certainty because, of course, there's no proving that, because we have only seen one side of a story, and that story being where this field of flowers did affect things in the future. So if that hadn't happened, there's no telling what could have happened in the future. But I'm going to go off the basis that they would not have beat the Demon King, simply because without the spell, this flower spell, this field of flowers, there's no telling that Himmel would have come and sought out Frieren. And if they hadn't sought out Frieren, there's no telling that they would have defeated the Demon King. The only reason they defeated the Demon King was because Frieren is Frieren. She is Flamme's pupil, student. I couldn't decide on which word to use there, so I almost said both together. But yeah, like this silly little spell brought them together. Frieren one day showed up in the middle of the night. Himmel got lost in the woods. And Frieren, of course, being an elf of these woods, showed up and pointed him in the right direction. And, as Himmel said, she seemed very cold. She was just pointing, wasn't even talking, wasn't saying anything, wasn't trying to comfort him or anything, wasn't trying to, reassure him everything was going to be okay. But she sensed that he was feeling anxious, feeling nervous, feeling scared. And what did she do? She eased his mind by casting this field full of flowers that conjured out of nowhere. And it was beautiful, as Himmel said, and for that very reason he wanted her to be the mage in their party going against the Demon King, because that was the first time he saw magic as something beautiful, and it's something that eased his mind, and it's something that made him feel at ease and comfortable. And I think that that was a big part of it, because he needs a mage in his party that will help others feel that way, that can step up and do what needs to be done, even though, like he said, he recognized through the eyes of a child that she seemed cold, but at the same time she cared. So yeah, I think even from a young age, or maybe something he learned over time as he was growing up, was that while she seemed cold, she very clearly didn't understand people but wanted to help them. And that's something that Hyder also talked about with Fern this episode. Hyder talked about how she's someone who doesn't understand people, she doesn't understand emotions, she doesn't understand why people feel the way they do, but that's why she is such a great person to be around, such a great master, especially because she will go that extra step, she will go beyond in order to ensure that people feel better, people feel people overcome whatever they're feeling and don't feel so down, don't feel so negative. And that's something that the entire party probably felt with Frieren several times. They were frustrated with her, but she went that step beyond in order to repair things, fix things, and make sure everyone was feeling okay again. And yeah, I do just think it's a beautiful thing that this silly little spell brought them together. This spell of conjuring flowers. And I think what makes it even more incredible is that it is the favorite spell of Frieren's teacher rather, and her mentor. And I wonder then if by the end of the series Fern will also feel the same way, that is her favorite spell. I don't know if that will be the case, because I imagine her favorite spell will have something to do with Hyder, like probably conjuring the butterflies that we saw in one of the early episodes. That might be her favorite spell. I don't know if we've ever necessarily got an answer about that from Fern, but it would be interesting to find out anyway. And another thing that I think is really interesting within this episode is that it is the pupil of the pupil of the pupil who ended up being the one that finally excited Ziria and made Ziria feel the state of magic was coming along. And I wish I could put that into better words, but it's the fact that Ziria's pupil, Flame, was the mentor of Frieren. So Frieren was Flame's pupil, and then Fern is Frieren's pupil, so it passes down. It's a big line passing right down, and Fern is the one who has passed Ziria's ideals of what makes a first class mage. And those ideals are very skewed also. I do think that that's something that needs to be pointed out. It's very, very skewed. And it's not something that you can really pick out as something definitive, I would say, because it is very much someone's idea, especially this time around, of what they think makes a first class mage. It's like the whole idea of a first class mage, it's not about your strength, your power, what you can do, what you can't do, or anything like that. It's about how much you impress Ziria, and that's just very peculiar, I would say. And now I'm really wondering if Denkin passed, because if he failed, if Fern is the only person that passed this time around, then that makes me think that Denkin will definitely be traveling with Frieren and the gang into the next season, at least for a little while. But this episode begins with this old man once again talking to Stark, and I wish I could take a guess as to what the point of this guy is. He's talking about how the path to a warrior has no end, and that Stark is taking another step towards mastering that path, and this guy has nothing left to teach Stark. I honestly have no idea what this guy's deal is at all. He is a decrepit old man that just shows up and starts yapping to Stark, and Stark is just kind of there meditating, like, oh my god, he says the same thing every day, when will he stop? And he's too kind and too good natured to even say anything, so he just lets it be. He lets this old guy have his moment. So then we get to one of the biggest parts of this episode, and that being that Fern's staff has now been broken into pieces, and she's very upset because this was the staff gifted to her by Hyder. And we knew this. We knew that this was a staff that she was given at a very young age by Hyder. I believe we did see that. But yeah, I never once thought about how she would have these feelings of attachment to it, and it makes a lot of sense because it's probably the last thing he has from her, or she has from him rather. I don't know if there's really anything else besides the memories that she has, and so she's very upset and she's very sad that this staff is broken and she wants it repaired, but Frieren says she cannot repair it, and she says you would be just better buying a new one. And Frieren, yes, that does come off very cold, but that's exactly how she would feel. And so once she senses and once she learns that Fern is very upset and very saddened by what Frieren has said, and Fern does share with Stark that this time she thinks Frieren has gone too far, it kind of, gets you thinking like, well, just as Stark says, I can't imagine she meant any harm by that. And so she's probably going to try and repair things. She's going to try and fix that relationship because she doesn't understand why he feels sad, but she's going to try to learn. She's going to try to understand and help so that you don't have to feel that way. And that's exactly what Frieren goes to do. She goes out there and she starts doing what she can, doing what she has to do in order to get this staff repaired. But just as we see Fern looking very sad and down and, like hunched over like this, we then get a cut to Lavigne the exact same way. So she's very saddened by the fact that she did not pass the first class mage exam. But in my mind, she's very young. She's got 3 years to get to the point where she feels comfortable doing so again. And yeah, I think she'll be fine. I hope she'll be fine. But anyway, Kane isn't teasing her and asks if Lavigne wants her head pats. And Lavigne basically just walks over and plops down right next to her. And so Kane starts to pat her head. And I think it's adorable. I think it's so sweet and cute. And I'm still just waiting for that confirmation from the two of them. Because obviously this is something that comforted Lavigne very much so, and it's something that eased her mind, and it's something that helps. Just this simple act of head patting. And we know head patting goes a long way in Frieren Beyond Journey's End. We have seen that all the way back with Frieren and of course Hyder, and then Frieren and of course Fern and or Stark. She just does it to anyone and everyone nowadays. I think she even did it with Zine when he was in the party for a little bit. It's just that brief period where we were with Zine, it's kind of a blur because it was such a short period of the series, but I believe she also did it with Zine as well. And I think it's really just sweet to see that act of head patting is almost like a thing in this series that you will see here and there throughout. Denken and Laufen show up in Richter's shop once again, and this time they're trying, well, it almost seems like Denken is trying to ease Richter's mind, because Richter is obviously very frustrated and annoyed and kind of pissed that he failed the exam, and so Denken knows that, and he's here to talk to his old pal, talk to someone that he worked with the entire time through parts 1 and 2 of the trial, and he wants to kind of just make sure Richter knows everything's going to be okay. And so they're talking a bit, and Denken's even saying, you got the shitty end of the stick. You got the end where Zensei showed up. Nobody else had to deal with that. And everyone else almost got to coast through without having to worry about doing anything too crazy. And yeah, that's exactly how I felt as well. Some people had to deal with the shitty end of the stick. A lot of people didn't. So it wasn't a great gauge for who is a first class mage or anything like that. Denken then ends up saying something that kind of surprised me. And that is when he talks about how Richter right now reminds him of a younger self of himself, as someone who had all of these. I need to check how he words it exactly. He's an insolent youngster, he mocks authority, and he has no qualms about mistreating the weak in order to achieve his goals. That's something that Denken surprisingly says he was also very much like when he was younger, and that surprised me a lot. And that follows the conversation when Richter says that maybe it's a good thing he was the one who failed, because Denken might not be around in 3 years to participate in this exam once again, being an old man and everything. It's just sad putting mortality into the mix and bringing that into, the forefront, because yeah, I just hate to think of these characters dying or anything. Like, I really do love Denkin a lot, and obviously we know that mortality is a huge thing in Frieren. That is half the title of the series, you know, beyond Journey's End, you know, beyond the end of the journey of life, you could say. Like, it's just sad that was brought into the mix. You know, I just hate it, but at the same time, it makes a lot of sense. Denkin says, I used to be an insolent youngster, but now I'm an Imperial Mage. You've got 3 more years, and in those 3 years, you will be even stronger than you were this time around. And yeah, I think that that's Denkin just leaving a little speck of, you got this. I believe in you, and it was an honor fighting alongside you. Go get him. Like, that's kind of how this felt to me, but without those words. And of course, that's when Frieren shows up and ruins Richter's day even more in a very revolving door kind of sense, where Denkin and Laufen leave, and this time Frieren shows up. More trouble for this guy to deal with, and she wants him to repair the staff, and he's just basically like, nah, I'm not going to do that. So Frieren gets under his skin. I don't think it was an intentional thing, but she says, well, if you can't do it, then I guess. And he's just like, oh my god, I didn't say I couldn't do it. So he ends up doing it just because she got under his skin by her choice of words. And so, of course, Richter has no choice but to repair it now, and he even has to comment that he's sorry for calling this broken, destroyed staff a piece of trash, and that it has been very clearly well maintained by the owner. And of course that's the case. It was Fern, and this was a very important thing to Fern. So yeah, he's repairing it, and it's very beautiful. It's very well done. Like, I love the animation here. I loved how cool it looked. I love the green glow that was coming off it and everything as he was repairing it. And yeah, he's a very much handyman kind of guy. Like, he can repair things. Like, we know that because we saw it way ages ago in a previous episode. And Frieren naturally wants it to be repaired in time for the 3rd test. So yeah, he basically repairs it that same night. And yeah, I think that that's really cool because it just goes to show how good he is at what he can do. And he is thoughtful at the same time. So Fern returns to their like hotel room or whatever it is that they're staying in room, whatever, and sees that the staff is repaired and on the bed. And it just makes her recall memories from Hyder, basically warning her of moments like these where, I've already talked about it, Frieren, you know, she doesn't understand people, but she'll go that extra step and beyond. And Fern knows that. Fern recognizes that, and she goes over and tucks Frieren in, and it's the least she can do. It's almost like her way of saying thank you, and she understands Frieren. She understands the way Frieren is, but of course, during all this, Frieren has to roll over and have her mouth open, sleeping in a really awkward, weird position, but that's Frieren for you. So now it's time for the first class mage exam, and everyone's queued up, and it looks like everyone's almost in groups of 2 or something, but then I realize now that Kane and Lavine aren't together, so who would be in Kane's group of 2 besides maybe the other girl from Virbel's group or something? Like, I'm not entirely sure, but anyway, this trial is about to begin, and we don't know anything about it at this point. And that's when we cut to a conversation between Zerie and the other first class mages rather, and proctors and everything like that. And this must have happened prior to this moment. And during that conversation, basically Zerie says that Zensei didn't do a great job because too many people passed, and too many people passed because of the strength of one person, and that should not be a way to determine who is a first class mage and who passes and everything like that. But she does praise Zensei for the initiative to make something cooperative, because there aren't enough cooperative first class mages. So on one hand, you did a good job, but you did a terrible job at the same time. So what more is there to do than to step into this role herself of being the proctor for the first class mage exam, the final one, the final trial, the 3rd trial, and that will be an interview with Zerie, where she will determine if you are meeting her standards, and that's the important thing, her standards for what makes a first class mage. And I think something that Zerie says is very interesting. She says, not even I want to see such pointless deaths. What do you mean, not even I? Like, you're fine with seeing, you want to see pointless deaths otherwise? Her word choice here just makes me constantly wary of her. She's not necessarily a villain, I don't think, but she's very iffy at the same time. Like, she's just a very strange character, and I know that that's because she's a hardened character. She's lived a very long time, and she has seen so much, she's experienced so much, she's lived through so much, but at the same time, like, she is very, very cold. And not in the way that Frieren is, because Frieren will try to overcome that coldness by, you know, acts of kindness and everything. Whereas Ziria, she just doesn't really have that motivation or drive to help others in that sense. Lernen says that he sensed that Frieren was keeping her mana weak and she was suppressing her mana. Jeez, I couldn't think of the better way to say that. And yeah, Lernen's like, it was only by chance. I just happened to notice a very slight fluctuation. He's being very modest. But the chance he could sense that, and what Ziria said in that the only other person prior to Lernen detecting that Frieren was suppressing her mana was the Demon King, that makes that super interesting. But it also makes me wonder, how does she know that? If Frieren hadn't met with her in more than 1,000 years, how did Ziria know that the Demon King could suppress her mana, or could detect that she was suppressing her mana? That seems like too much of a detail to be a throwaway line. That is super peculiar and super interesting, but I don't have the answers. The only other thing I can think of is that she is somewhat related to the Demon King because of the fact that she wears a cloak, you know, very king-like, very queen-like, very royalty-like. That's all I can think of, but do I think that's the case? I'm not sure. I don't want to buy into that. I don't want to go full send on that theory because I don't have any proof for that whatsoever besides very minor, I would say, coincidences. And so Ziria starts to shit talk suppression and basically be like, yeah, there's no point in it because it's a waste of time. It takes millennia almost, or centuries, whatever it is that she says. And that's crazy because we know that Frieren spent a very, very long time mastering this, and it's for the exact reason that Ziria describes, so that she can trick demons. She can deceive them and take them out very easily. And we know that she has done this time and time again. We have seen her do it, and we've seen her do it against Aura, who was supposed to be a super powerful mage opponent. Demon, of course. So she calls it a waste of time, but she herself has also done it because she is suppressing her mana. And something super interesting that she says here is that Frieren is actually very relatively unskilled for her age, simply because of her control over her mana. She is able to go out there and defeat demons without any issue. So yeah, Frieren's super powerful, but the fact that Ziria is basically being like, yeah, she's not that powerful for her age, that's insane to me. And something else super interesting is that she even says to Lernen, you could beat Frieren. I know you could, but you'll never get that chance because you're old as hell now and you'll never be anything. Like, she shit talks all over for Lernen here, which is super sad to see because he does look like a timid old man and he just wants to get by, it seems. But she knows that he could beat Frieren, and that makes his character super interesting to me if we see him pop up in the future. And that's of course when we learn that Ziria has been suppressing her mana by a ridiculous amount. And so once they cut back to Frieren and Fern, they learn that this will be an interview with Ziria, and Frieren's basically like, right, Fern, it's all on you. She's going to fail me without even thinking about it because I have never become the first class mage that she thinks a first class mage should be. I will never be that person. I just cannot do that. That's I don't fit and check all her boxes. So I will fail and it's up to you. And she has no doubt whatsoever. She's not putting pressure on Fern. She's just basically being like, hey, so she's going to try and say and do, trick you into saying or doing whatever it is that you want, whatever it is that she wants. But all you have to do is say, nah, do whatever you want to do because she will pass you no matter what because of the talent and her intuition. And her intuition is always right. And I don't know if Frieren really truly means and believes that, or if she's simply mocking Ziria here because that's truly what Ziria believes. And so we kind of see like the jobbers of the group, you know, the ones that we knew wouldn't have been here if not for Frieren. They get failed almost immediately, and it's just fail. And then that's when Frieren shows up. And Ziria gives Frieren one opportunity to pass, and that is to tell her favorite spell. And of course she shares that it's the flower field spell, and that disappoints her even more, and she immediately says fail. She was going to fail her regardless, but this is almost like her excuse to fail her because she was like able to give her one more chance without preconceptions of feelings and everything like that. But realistically, I couldn't have seen her passing Frieren no matter what here, and she fails her immediately because of that spell, but that's when Frieren basically is like, yeah, you think that it's ridiculous that a mage of my caliber was able to defeat the Demon King, but I think you're forgetting that it wasn't just me. It was my party. Every single one of us was there. Every single one of us stepped up. And without one of us there, we would never have passed. We would never have defeated the Demon King. Zirei tries to discount Frieren once again by saying, oh, so you had powerful allies. And that's what makes it all the more interesting, because we know that this group of heroes is kind of like outcast and they're not really seen as the best or anything. Himmel, a failed, hero. He could not draw the sword from the stone and everything like that. Hyder, a drunk. An old drunk, scoundrel of a priest. And then Aizen, a coward and someone who ran away and fled when things got serious back when he was younger. So that plus Frieren just makes it all the more crazy that this is the group that defeated the Demon King. This was a perfect group of people together. Take one of them away and the group falls apart. It's all about the party, not the person. And the party was spectacular because they defeated the Demon King. And Zirei cannot understand that, I don't believe, here. And yeah, that's when Frieren is like, you think it's ridiculous, but it's that one spell that you think is silly that brought us all together. And yeah, I've already talked about that, so I'm not really going to talk about it much longer, but I think it's an absolutely beautiful thing. It made me cry. It made me start bawling up. I just love the series so much. And Frieren simply turns around as she's leaving after knowing she's failed and says, hey, I know you fully intend to fail Fern as well, but she's going to exceed your expectations, so just be ready for it. And then we get to see Fern walk in, and Zirei is ready to tell her she's failed because it looks like she's frozen in place by the mana detection. But unlike Kane and others that came before, she is simply frozen because she is detecting the fluctuations in the mana. She's detecting that Zirei is suppressing her mana, and she senses how much mana she's letting loose. So that is surprising Fern and making her stand in awe and just stare. And once Zirei learns that it's because of the fluctuations and the detection of mana, she wants Fern for herself. She wants Fern to be her student. And Fern is like, nope, I am a student of Frieren, and that's all I'm going to be. That's all it is, and that's what's going to happen. So Zirei has no choice but to pass her, even though she tried to make it sound like her pass would depend on whether she would become Zirei's student or not. That was not the case. That was simply her trying to trick Fern into saying that she would be her student, and Frieren kind of prepared her for that. And that's the end of the episode. What a great one. What a great episode. I'm so glad that we got a nice episode here, and I knew that Fern would be the one to pass the exam. I had no doubt whatsoever. I had full faith and trust in her the entire time, and yeah, Fern the first class mage. That's badass. And yeah, I'm excited to see what the dynamic looks like going forward now that she's the first class mage. I don't know if things are going to change or anything. She's still Frieren's pupil, as she herself has even said. So we'll see what changes, and we'll get to see what happens with Virbel, what happens with Danken. I feel like those are maybe the only two that are kind of still important that we haven't seen yet. Whether they passed or failed, I could be wrong, forgive me, but what happens to them? Do they become first class mages too? And if not, are any of them going to travel with us for a little bit because we need to go to the north and everything like that? So yeah, Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, what an incredible series, what an amazing episode, what a just feel good but also like sad little episode, and sad in the best way as possible. Sad because it made me feel something for these characters and for this world and everything. But yeah, gonna wrap this one up. Don't have much more to say. I hope that you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe if you've not done so already. And comment down below letting me know your favorite episode in Frieren Beyond Journey's End, and we will be back next week with the final episode of Frieren. Not ready for it, but season 2 can't come soon enough. So yeah, that's going to do it for me for today. I hope that you guys are having a great day today and that you're able to take it easy. I will see you in the next one. Take care.